So up next, we had an interview with Goldust, and Tom Phillips asks him about Cody Rhodes, and Goldust says, Cody Rhodes, I don't know what you're talking about. My partner is Stardust. And Stardust comes in singing When You Wish Upon a Star. And Goldust just kind of says, see, now I'm the normal one. Oh, and then he comes back and does the thing.
I love the Goldust parts of this, but I want to know from you personally, what did you think of Cody's part in this?
Well, what is there to say? He came in, danced, and sang a song, and that's like there's no character development or fleshing out or anything like that there to speak of. So it's not like I can really have an opinion on it. It's just kind of goofiness.
So you don't think it was necessarily like good or bad? It was just there.
Right? Yeah. This to me, this was more about Goldust than Stardust. Stardust was just the background to this.
I almost have to wonder. I mean, again, you and I talked about this in casual conversation, and I'll bring it here. Apparently, the direction that this is going to go is really dependent on the crowd. If the fans really embrace Stardust and Goldust, this new union, they'll get a tag title shot at SummerSlam. But if it doesn't seem to really get over and be a hot commodity, then Stardust will turn on Goldust, revert back to Cody Rhodes, and we get our singles match at SummerSlam. I was originally thinking that they would go that route regardless, and that maybe Stardust would be nothing more than an elaborate parody of Goldust, and then Cody just kind of, rides Goldust into the ground. But I'm loving it. James is loving it. Abel's loving it. Like, Stardust is freaking awesome. Okay?
Now, I don't know if you saw this or not, but
okay.
I really want to bring this up because Rybaxel had a backstage segment. I think it was Backstage Access, whatever the post-show thing is called. Backstage Pass, that's what it is. After, I want to say Monday Night Raw, where they got asked by Tom Phillips what their game plan was to kind of take care of Goldust and Stardust now because they kind of squashed them. And it was one of the most entertaining things that I have seen in WWE in a long time. Like, Rybaxel, when you just give them time to say what's on their mind, to kind of give you the loopiness that they kind of just have naturally, it works so freaking well. Like, Rybaxel just kind of said, all things stars. For example, every meal I eat nothing but Starburst. And then, like, Curtis Axel's like, oh, I love Starburst. My favorite member of the Beatles is Ringo Starr. And then Ryback comes back with something. Like, they went like 6 different star-related things. It was comedy gold, but it was on the app and not actual television, so it's a real shame.
That infuriates me so much on 2 fronts. One, it's personal because I miss that, and I love Rybaxel. So that's a shame. 2, why aren't you giving this a television platform? Like, really, that's a nitpick because we did get great stuff tonight, and I can't really think of much that could have been bumped down in favor of this, something like this. But yeah, like, Rybaxel's so good. I want them to be more of a legitimate team in terms of, the time they get and the presentation and everything. And it's a shame, because you and I both really like these guys. I know quite a few other people really seem to like Rybaxel. But that's great. 2 living, breathing pun machines going back and forth with each other. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. So anyway, that was just the whole Goldust Stardust thing. So up next, we had Jack Swagger versus Kofi Kingston. Really nothing to talk about here. Swagger wins with the Patriot Act, and that's about it.
Yeah, once again, he tries to make it a 2K14, soon to be 2K15 catch finisher. And yeah, he gets the win. Kofi, they made him look really resilient. They made him look like he'd get the win a couple times, so they had a great, hope spots there. Talking about Kofi Kingston's going to be exciting in Money in the Bank. Well, exciting doesn't translate into victories, and it certainly didn't here. Swagger stands tall.
Absolutely. So up next, we had a backstage segment. Renee Young getting ready to interview somebody, but Del Rio cuts her off at the pass, and she even tells him that he wasn't who she was expecting. And he basically says he has experience. He has done the Money in the Bank thing before. He is one of 2 people in the Money in the Bank match that has cashed in successfully and won. So he's basically saying that because he's done this all before, that he's going to be able to do it again with no problem.
Absolutely. And then he gets cut off. It was the typical promo from Del Rio. I didn't really care for it, but what I did care for is who interrupted him. None other than the Swiss Superman Cesaro and his personal advocate, Paul Heyman. And Paul Heyman gave us a little quick math lesson, Ashton, particularly revolving around the number 1.
Yeah, because he is the one behind 21 and 1.
Yes, because his client, Brock Lesnar, conquered The Undertaker's undefeated streak at WrestleMania, and he is also the one that had his client Cesaro win the inaugural Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. But
Oxygen, John, oxygen.
it's called breathing, John. Do it. So yeah, Heyman pretty much runs down on the ground. Del Rio comes back with, does he ever speak for himself, or are you just a little puppet? He does kind of the marionette motions. And then Heyman's like, gloves off. And then I loved what Cesaro said here.
Cesaro said, see,
yeah.
I would talk, Del Rio, but there's only one problem. See, I only speak 5 languages, but none of them is loser.
It's such a high school jock insult, and yet it works because he's such a beast.
Yep.
Oh, Del Rio, you're so irrelevant. You'd be lucky to lace up Cesaro's boots at this point.
Yeah. All right, so up next, Damian Sandow comes out dressed as Abraham Lincoln, I'm not making this up, and cuts his own version of a worked shoot mixed with the Emancipation Proclamation. Again, I'm not making this up.
Yeah, Sandow pretty much reciting the Gettysburg Address in his own
Oh,
words.
Is that what it was? Wow, I
Yeah.
seriously have history problems.
And, well, that's why I'm here. I'm kind of your buffer, just as you're my buffer for 95% of the things that I try and predict. So, with that said, yeah, he pretty much says, does that make you happy? Well, I don't care. I don't need any of you people to get to the top. So, again, I guess it is playing on. I don't know if they're playing on that Sandow's losing his mind. He's just sick and tired of the system, whatever it is. Personally, it's not that I've, jumped off the wagon. I'll always be a Sandow fan because I just think he's so good. But I'm not going to be actively paying attention to these segments unless I feel like, wait, could a payoff be coming? And I'll tell you what was coming, Big E. Because his music hits, he comes out. Apparently they have a match, and for the second consecutive week, Ashton, Big E, I think, pretty much crushes his opposition.
Yeah, Big E is on a roll, and it's so strange because I think a lot of people were predicting that he would be one of the people in the Money in the Bank ladder match for the contract, but he isn't. So you have to wonder, all these kind of squash matches that he's been having, what is it going to translate into?
Exactly, and I think we got a little bit of an indication of that after the match. He hits the big ending, gets the pin, and then, Ashton, I'm going to let you take the reins on this one, mostly because the stream I was watching on Raw kind of cut out in the beginning of this, and you were in hysterics anyway with Big E's promo, so I think you're in a better position to handle this than I am.
I am in literally no position to handle this because as soon as he started talking, the way that he was talking, I was in tears and could barely even hear what he was saying.
I got the vibe, and maybe I'm wrong, because again, experience cut out and all this other stuff, but I got the vibe that he was kind of invoking his inner preacher or whatever with the way.
Yeah, like the inner,
and we will
minister.
rectify, like things like that.
Yeah,
like
that. He's got like the minister, like biblical preaching kind of thing going on, but. To me, the most hilarious, and the reason that I died laughing during this was because all I could think of was Tropic Thunder. Robert Downey Jr.'s character did that briefly, and then the other kid, I don't remember the black dude's name in the movie, came back with, "Oh, all right, it is how all of us talk," and it's just like exactly what Big E was doing here, and he was calling him out on being racist, and Big E was doing exactly what he was doing here, but without the sarcasm. Like, I feel like Big E set his own race back 150 years with this freaking promo, but it was so hilarious because, like, all I could think of was Robert Downey Jr. and this kid, this black dude in Tropic Thunder, and the black dude throws a punch and Downey Jr. catches it with his hand, and then he pulls him in and hugs him tight, and he's just like, for 250 years we've been dealing with this, and just like he cuts like the freaking anti-slavery promo, and then here's Big E setting his own race back however many decades. And I don't know, just the throwback to Tropic Thunder clicked with me with the funny bone, and it just died.
Yeah, it just seemed like a really crazy promo all around, trying to evoke that patriotism with the crowd. And then we get an assault perpetrated by Rusev.
Well, more specifically, Lana's music hits, and she comes out and actually distracts Big E long enough for Rusev to nail him from behind. And I do have one very important note here. Rusev had Big E locked in the Accolade, but Big E did not tap out.
No, he did not. In fact, me and James are kind of discussing this point afterwards, and he says, John, do you think the Accolade is kind of like the new Master Lock? You know, how long can people last before giving in, and can they even break the hold with the behemoth that Rusev is? And I said, dude, you know, I don't know. It certainly seems like it. And to see Big E, you know, kind of clench his fists and not give in and not tap out, I think really has people – get people to rally behind him. And if they have another match at Money in the Bank, I could get into it. I enjoyed their little skirmish at, what was it, Ashton? Was it
the last pay-per-view Payback,
right?
wasn't it?
Yeah, Payback. And I felt like they did good stuff there, especially the spear through the ropes, which I was amazed that Rusev even took that spot. But I'm
amazed every time Big E delivers that spot.
Yeah, really. So I think they could have another worthwhile matchup at Money in the Bank if they choose to go that route. It'd be a nice match to really round the card out. And, yeah, I mean, do that. And then who knows? Maybe Swagger would be next in Rusev's sights. I mean, they did kind of tease that, but no follow-up. So I don't know what they're thinking with that.
Yeah. So the only real note that I had there was that Big E never tapped out, and that's worth pointing out. But regardless, yeah, Big E had me in tears, and I barely paid attention to this segment. So yeah, whatever. It was hilarious because, you know, Tropic Thunder.